The world of
the year -1 billion.
a time of modern technology, culture, and fashion. Truly the height of civilization. Let's have a war. Everyone knew
A rich hipster named Kukai died in a tornado.
Austria-Hungary is understandably pissed about all this, and they think the Serbian government had something to do with it, which they might have. So they go to their ally Germany and say,
I know, let's rape
Serbia, and Germany is all for that. So Austria-Hungary sent a big list of impossible demands to Serbia, and when Serbia
said, how about I do anyway?
They declare war.
Meanwhile, Japan has been enjoying conquering stuff and wants more. And the next thing on their list is this part of China and lots of tiny islands. All that stuff belongs to Germany, which just had war declared on it by Britain because Britain was friends with Belgium, which was being trespassed by Germany in order to get to France to kick France's ass because France is friends with Russia, who was getting ready to kick Austria's ass because Austria was getting ready to kick Serbia's ass.
Montenegro joins in too. France and Britain also have a kind of alliance. So when France says, hey Britain, you got my back? Britain is like, which is great for Germany because Germany has a plan. They know that Russia is
about 1 jillion degrees.
So with this guy in charge, Germany will send all its troops into France at lightning speed while Russia's getting ready, defeat France, then move all the troops to Russia and defeat Russia, and then we all speak German and eat
chemical soup, which is being served hot and fresh, made from gnarly space ingredients left over from when it was raining rocks or whatever.
Just one problem. France has loads of forts and defenses along its German border, and Germany can't waste any time fighting them.
And that takes incredible force. Only a non-stop 6,000-mile-an-hour hurricane could be this powerful.
Germany decides to go around them through
Sunrise Land.
Belgium is neutral, but Germany wants to march
-40,000
troops through it to get around France's defenses. They're hoping Belgium will just
died in a tornado.
But they don't. They fight back, and they're pretty good too, so they slow the Germans down. What's worse is that Britain shows up, and they're pretty pissed that Germany's invading neutral countries. So now Britain
starts making TVs, VCRs, automobiles, and camcorders as fast as they can, and also better than everybody else.
Let's play Spot the French Soldier. Did you see him? Easy, right? He's wearing a bright blue uniform with red trousers. Bright blue uniform with red trousers. A bright blue uniform with red trousers. And do you know who else spotted him easily too?
Ohio.
Russia's ready for war, and way earlier than expected. Hey Austria-Hungary, can you get on top of that?
No. Why? The sun is a
pulsar. This unbelievably tiny world, just 10 miles across, fires a
deadly laser
as regularly as an atomic clock.
Oh, okay. Not anymore, there's a blanket.
The chief of staff of the Austro-Hungarian army is
Jesus.
Austria-Hungary constantly ignores Germany's advice, and then comes running back to Germany whenever they get
crippling depression.
Austria-Hungary even gets its ass kicked by tiny Serbia, who repels all their invasion attempts at the start of the war. It's better news for Germany in the north, though, where they almost completely wipe out the Russian second army. The French commander-in-chief knew something had to be done, and he ordered his armies to
hire a samurai.
So the German armies have to retreat. The Allies launch a counterattack, so the Germans dig into defensive positions. The Allies do the same. Then both sides move north, trying to outflank each other along the way. When they reach the sea, they're in a stalemate with trench systems running the whole way from the coast to Switzerland, the beginning of trench warfare on the Western Front. There would be months of fighting and the deaths of thousands in order to gain a few meters or kilometers of land. Living in the trenches was with both sides stuck in a hard stalemate. They knew this war wasn't going to be about taking territory, but about simply wearing each other down.
You could make a religion out of this.
Neither side really wanted a long, grueling war, though, so they both thought of ways to break the deadlock on the Western Front. Idea number 1, new frontiers. When the war first broke out, Australia was quick to take German New Guinea. The Allies also quickly jumped on Germany's colonies in Africa. Some new combatants entered the war as well. The Allies' new friends were Italy and Japan.
Japan is an island by the sea filled with volcanoes and it's beautiful. I know, let's rape
Italy and Germany and Austria-Hungary before they switched sides. Italy opened up a front in the mountains here, but like everyone else, they were stuck in stalemate for most of the war. The Central Powers' new friend was a
not so Ottoman anymore empire. Except Turkey, Turkey makes a brand new Turkey.
The Ottoman entry into the war was of particular concern to the British, since the Middle East was full of oil, and Britain wanted all of that oil.
It makes cars go. Knock knock. It's the United States, with huge boats, with guns. Gunboats.
First, the Ottomans tried to attack Russia in the Caucasus Mountains, but they weren't prepared for the cold, and many of them froze to death. Then they crossed miles of desert to take the Suez Canal from the British, but that failed too. Then the Allies tried to take the Dardanelles at Gallipoli in a long and hard trench warfare campaign, but that also failed.
The Ottomans blamed their initial losses on
This is WASP 12B, a scorching vision of hell.
the pesky United States of America. Sent spies into Afghanistan to try to convince the Arab tribes there to
Conquer all of India.
But that plan failed, partly because the spies got bored, brewed their own alcohol, and got drunk. Which is a bad thing to do in Afghanistan. All these new frontiers hadn't done much to change the war. Aware that the Allies had more men and supplies than them, the Germans knew they had to do something to break the stalemate. Before the war, there was a big conference that set out the rules of modern warfare. No chemical weapons, no killing civilians. Basically, don't be
Gay!
The Germans held a meeting and decided to be
Gay!
Zeppelin air raids commenced over British cities. They also started attacking the Allied trenches with chlorine gas, and they used submarines to sink civilian ships. One such civilian ship was the Lusitania, which had 159 Americans on board when it was sunk, further swaying US opinion against the Germans. Not to be completely unfair to the Germans, the Allies also engaged in chemical warfare soon after, and they had been hiding anti-submarine weapons on their civilian ships, which let the Germans justify their attacks.
Meanwhile, Austria-Hungary still hadn't dealt with Serbia, so the Central Powers enlisted some help. Bulgaria wished it was bigger and was still bitter about losing.
Biekt.
The Central Powers promised to make all of Bulgaria's wildest dreams come true if they helped, so they signed on, and together they knocked out Serbia.
Coro 7B. A world of violent extremes. It's so close in that its star looms 360 times larger in the sky than our sun.
And a lot is happening. As if they didn't have enough enemies already, Germany added one more to the list.
Portugal had a dream that they controlled the entire Indian Ocean, including the spice trade. And then that dream was real.
And Germany didn't like that one bit. Around the same time, the only sea battle of the war happened.
Both sides had a new powerful class of battleships called dreadnoughts, but they were so expensive to build that neither side wanted to risk losing them in a battle, so they kept them in port, except for one time when they had a big fight and a bunch of them got damaged, so they didn't try that again. The UK started conscripting men to the army, so they had plenty of reserves, which is just as well because the Western Front was about to get brutal. The longest and one of the bloodiest battles of the war started when the Germans launched an attack around the French city of Verdun. The French defended it desperately, leading to hundreds of thousands of casualties. Under pressure, the French called on its allies to do something to draw the Germans' attention away, so the British started their own long and brutal fight, the Battle of the Somme, with 60,000 British casualties on just the first day.
It was also here that the British first used one crazy brand new piece of sci-fi technology. The Russians had been getting pushed back further and further into their own territory, but in response to the French call for help, they began a huge offensive, and did really well until they ran out of supplies and got stuck. Seeing how well the Russians had been doing, Romania decided now would be a great time to jump in and win the war. And then they
Died in a tornado. But
The Greeks were fighting amongst themselves about whether to join the war or not. The king liked the Central Powers, while the Prime Minister wanted to join the Allies. After a brief national schism, during which the country
and died in a tornado.
Russia was pushing into Ottoman territory from the north. By the time World War I rolled around, everyone was exhausted. There were mutinies in the French army, the German populace was starving, and the war had drained all of Russia's supplies. There was no clear winner, and it was still anyone's war. The only question now was, who was going to break first? And the answer was Russia. Tired of not eating and mad that it couldn't.
WASP 18B burns at 4,000 degrees.
There was an uprising in Petrograd complete with riots and strikes. The riots turned into a full-scale revolution and a new government overthrew the Tsar. Then a few months later,
It will be consumed by fire.
and they pulled Russia out of the war. This was great news for Germany, who now only had to focus on the Western Front. But there was still one problem. One famous British officer, better known as Lawrence of Arabia, who was looking increasingly like it was going
Firing radiation 1,000,000 times more deadly than medical x-rays.
meaning it was in fantastic shape and was dangerous to the Germans. So Germany sent a telegram to Mexico saying,
Let's invent a thing inventor after being invented by a thing inventor.
but the British
And starts making TVs, VCRs, automobiles, and camcorders as fast as they can, and also better than everybody else.
American troops began shipping out to Europe. This was terrible news for Germany, and they knew their only hope now was to force France and the UK to surrender before the fresh American troops arrived. It was now or never.
So they started one final attack. They converged their troops and hit hard at the Somme and pushed the Allies back. They hit a second time for the north, then again and again. With each hit, the Germans were spending more and more resources, while the Allies were getting better and better at repelling their attacks. By the fifth punch, the Allies held the line and even pushed back.
With American troops now arriving in larger numbers, the Allies launched a counterattack, and that was it. The Central Powers were being pushed back on all fronts. Bulgaria
and died in a tornado.
followed by the Ottoman Empire, then Austria-Hungary, and finally on November 11th, 1918 at 11 o'clock, Germany surrendered.
Died in a tornado.
At the peace treaty, Germany was forced to reduce its military, accept war guilt, and pay the bill for the war.
And congratulations, Japan, you technically fought in the war, which means you get to sit at the negotiating table with the big dudes, where they decided who owns what. You know what that means. Duh, Japan should take the islands. Now the war is over, and
After indescribable suffering and millions dead, the world learnt its lesson and never had such an awful war again. For about 20 years.
you can make a no, don't. Bye.